Play the intro music.
Look at
Hold on, what's this one?
what Boris Johnson did, and I'm not advocating it. He just took the whip away from 25 Tories and had done with it. Now, I'm guessing from your facial expression, you wouldn't go that far.
I don't.
What would you do?
If you're going to go for unity, you've got to inspire people to come together. You can't force them to come together. And disciplining people to be united is going nowhere. So the only way in the end to unite the Labour Party is to be very clear that's what you want to do, to recognise there will be different views and to reconcile them, and to have a culture and a spirit where people genuinely want to pull together.
Look at what Boris Johnson did.
This guy is not the clown, he's the entire circus, honestly. Wow. Right, so pretty frustrating stream, I'd say. Some pretty big stories. Two massive ones really to cover. Some little ones here, but I'm just wondering whether it's worth going for the main events really. The economics video's been delayed to August. So that's a thing. So I'll be working on that in the background. To be fair, I've got a lot of research I need to do anyway, so it's not it'd be better to delay it than rush it out, I guess. Both of us got a lot of research to do, so there is that. But ultimately, it's a rough week for trying to get any sense out of UK politics, I'd say, because Jesus Christ, man, it is just an omni shambles, just such a mess. Like, it's like, okay, cool. The situation, like the stuff with the Afghan refugees, right? The data leak. You're thinking, oh, that's bad. That's really bad. And then you've got Labour suspending a load of MPs, and you're like, that's also really bad. Especially the ones they suspended. Obviously the data leak is worse because you put people's lives in danger. Chances are those people could have been killed. Could have been killed by the Taliban because of the data leak. But ultimately, like, it's just wow, guys. Honestly, this is just, like with the conservative stuff. You get like not little scandals, but yeah, scandals. Standard stuff, money or corruption and things like that. But when you think you're supposed to hold the Labour Party to a higher standard, and you kick out four MPs that are progressive, at least that Rachel Mascow definitely is someone who has fought against poverty, has fought against the winter fuel allowance cut. Have you seen the GB News with Ed Davey over power? Can you post it in Discord, please? Post it in the Discord. But this video really is Starmer putting the L in the Labour Party. Like, that's the only way. That's the only way to describe it. Because what are you supposed to say to this? Like, genuinely, right? What are you supposed to say to a guy who suspends MPs who voted against elderly people to be put into poverty because of the winter fuel allowance cut, who voted against putting more disabled people in poverty? Like, really, what are you doing? I wish I had the soundboard for times like this, because honestly, the clip I would play is this one here. What's the guy's name?
Are you nervous?
Yeah, I'm really nervous.
Oh no, this. I shot the clip of where he says, "What do you think you're doing?"
Who did you think you?
No, that's not it. So sometimes without my soundboard, I am useless. But yeah, he says to one dude, "What do you think you're doing? Take a seat." And that would be the perfect one for this. Is what are they doing? Genuinely, I don't. I'm so lost. Like, what is the strategy here? What is the plan? What are you guys doing? I don't get it. There's no strategy here. There's no idea of what the hell they're thinking. I'm just baffled. Baffled at the situation here. Trying to see if there's anything else. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's interesting to talk to you guys about. Because yeah, I don't know, guys. Like, it's probably the biggest story. Labour's poll lead. The amount of disapproval is in the mud. But they're going to continue suspending MPs. Oh, unfortunate Rachel Mascow wrote an article about how to do rebellion while in government. Oh, that is unfortunate. That is most unfortunate. Oh my days, this picture here is so funny. You are not a journalist, Paul. You know this. So funny. But I don't know, guys. I'm just net favourability. Corbyn still -62 is crazy. Corbyn does have a higher favourability rating than Starmer. Oh, he does. Yeah. No, I'm looking at this actually. But Starmer's dislike is actually higher. That's surprising. But yeah. There's nothing more for me to bring you guys, I think, in terms of news. But oh yeah, I forgot Tansky trying to lecture someone on Hillsborough as well. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I need to cover that actually. Yeah, I need time to cover this. But with Labour, I don't get why they've suspended these MPs. Yeah, we'll wait for the goons to actually get involved in this. I imagine that it'll be a tepid response. Tepid response. Let's dig into the story here. Let's dig into the actual story. I want to do the Afghan video justice, so I'm gonna leave that for a bit, a couple of days. But this story here is just, it's moving fast. Link DM to you. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. But yeah, this honestly, like, so listen.
About your tax cuts.
That is not the right video.
To the by Keir Starmer. 4 MPs losing the Labour whip in the last hour or so. 3 others having their government jobs withdrawn after a pretty major rebellion a couple of weeks ago over disability benefits. Aggie Chambray is LBC's political correspondent with the very latest. Aggie.
Yes, that's right, Ben. So in the last half hour, it has been confirmed that 4 MPs, Neil Duncan Jordan, Chris Hinchcliffe, Brian Leishman and Rachel Maskell have all had the whip withdrawn, suspended due to repeated breaches of party discipline. Pending a future review. And as you say, 3 Labour MPs losing their government jobs.
Any other leader will have 99%. Yeah, nice one. That's one classic. That's vintage. That's vintage O'Brien, that is.
Trade envoy roles. Rosina Allen Khan, Bell, Rubiaro Addy and Mohammed Yasser.
So, Dr. Khan, someone who was in shadow cabinet, who Starmer got rid of effectively by removing her role.
This follows a fortnight later after that welfare vote where over 120 MPs signed that reasoned amendment. And as I said in that tease there, they thought they had safety in numbers because just about a year ago, 7 Labour MPs voted against the government on the 2-child benefit cap and they all had the whip suspended. And since then, you've spoken to Labour MPs and they're a little bit worried.
So, with that, these are the same tactics the Saudis used against women when it came to the driving bans that they had. So they allowed women to drive, but then what they did straight after is they banned the ringleaders in getting in the protests and things like that. So well done, Keir, following Prince Salman.
Worried about rebelling because they're worried about losing the whip. They basically thought, look, there's over 120 of us that have signed this reasoned amendment. Basically, 120 of us saying we will rebel and we are safe. And today, the proof of that is that they are not. And the government is basically trying to show that they are in control of the party, trying to...
I mean, if anything, it shows that they're not in control. They had to get rid of ringleaders of people who were correct in policy. It shows that you have lost control because you think the only way to keep control is by getting rid of people you couldn't convince otherwise. So your debating skills were not enough. Your ability to persuade was not enough. So you exiled them.
Gain that discipline that they had early doors just before.
Yeah, that party's going ahead as far as I'm aware. So if it's the case that this party picks up any steam, Labour have just given them 4 potential candidates. Labour have given them 4 potential people they could pick to join their party.
Before MPs go off on summer recess. We've heard from a couple of those MPs. Brian Leishman, who's been suspended, he said that he'd had the whip temporarily suspended, said he's a proud Labour member and remains...
So yeah, I don't think there's too much in this.
It's a really, really good question. I think it's worth pointing out that 3 out of the 4 of the Labour MPs who, as they were Labour MPs, are new. Rachel Maskell's the only one that's been around for a longer time. And I think that matters because it is more difficult to suspend the whip from somebody who has been around for a really, really long time, is really well respected, really well known with it.
I mean, that's not true. It depends how well they are in the party. Like Corbyn's one was pretty easy for them to get through. There was barely any protest about it.
In the Labour Party. And if you look at someone like Meg Hillier, it seemed like she really... chose to start off that reasoned amendment, and she did it seemed with a slightly heavy heart. She hasn't rebelled on...
No, she wanted the compromise position because she wanted to get them to lower it just enough so that she could try and convince her constituents this was, that they got a major concession. That's why she did it, because she voted for the 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 actual bill itself, which was terrible. She did it to try and force a fake concession out of the Labour Party. That's what she was there for.
Other things. And I think members of the Labour Party responded to that, basically thinking, okay, she's taken this big step and this is a huge leap. If you were to look at someone like Rachel Maskell,
this lady drives me nuts, man. So her takes are so bad at times. This is from Rachel Maskell, who's the one of the main MPs in question.
My constituents have given me a mandate to speak up for them when they have need, and clearly, obviously, we've had a big debate over the value of disabled people who have no agency and no voice on so many occasions in our society. And I want to make sure that they're heard, their needs are met, and that's why I've been so strong standing for disabled people. I have all my life. I worked as a physiotherapist.
I think Lynch said he wanted to join the Corbyn party, but we'll have to see.
I've always been so heavy on my heart, so being able to be elected to this place is a privilege, to be able to ensure that we do the very best for disabled people, and that's really what I wanted to ensure through this.
You spoke about your faith, and you spoke about lines that you cannot cross. Tell us about your faith and the lines you cannot cross.
Well, when the evidence was so strong that people would die as a result of these changes, having money taken away from them, people we know have serious mental health challenges, and we've got to protect those people in our society. I believe that. So I could not have on my conscience something where we know that people would take their own lives if they had insufficiency. And I spoke to my constituents because, like I reach into Downing Street and ministers here, I reach out into my constituency.
Accidentally started up League.
And I met many disabled people who basically said their dignity was being taken from them, their very ability to provide was being taken. Even one person I spoke in the debate so passionately about, a constituent whose
We'll watch that in a minute.
little girl was next to him, and he said, I just won't be here. So, of course...
So you can see what her reasonings are, and this clip should highlight that as well.
My constituent sat in front of me with his gorgeous little girl, thankfully with headphones on and playing a kiddie's game. He said he wouldn't get through this. He just about manages now. Some days he gets up, others not. As his mental health is failing, he can't work. Everything else has been taken from him. And now, this little bit of funding to help them get by, to give him just 1 ounce of dignity...
Started like 20 minutes ago, maybe less.
...was more than he could bear. Then the words came. It would be better that I wasn't here. That was also his expectation.
Someone had told her this. Her constituent had told her this. And do you think that any sane person who has been told this would vote for such a bill that would effectively kill one of their constituents? No rational person could do that.
He tried before. He'll be safe now, but the one who follows not. Another felt dehumanised as they would lose their independence to shower and dress. And others could not balance the books as Scope's disability price tag is at $1,095 every month of extra cost. Changes that would switch independence to dependence on social care, food banks, pleading for emergency funds or seeking charity. And those who came to see me with fluctuating conditions just do not know where their future lies. These Dickensian cuts belong to a different era.
He can't defend this. He can't, because this goes against Labour's manifesto as well. There's no, I'm telling you, the level of mental gymnastics that man would need to defend this decision would go crazy. We're talking gold medal level. We're talking S tier glazing, fam. That's what we're saying.
A different party.
He's not going to defend it. He's going to say, this a massive tactical misstep from Labour. I think this is a mistake. But I think Labour will come good in the end. He's going to blame Morgan McSweeney, and he's going to say, but ultimately the blame does lie with the person in charge, without really mentioning his name.
They are far from what this Labour Party is for, a party to protect the poor, as is my purpose. For I am my brother's keeper. These are my constituents, my neighbours, my community, my response.
So, you know, for the question of why did they suspend her, she seems sound. It's because she's a good speaker. She's a good speaker. She's got a strong moral compass, and she's willing to fight the government on certain issues. That's why. She's good at what she does, and that's what they don't like. They want incompetence. Why do you think someone like Wes Streeting has got a job, a ministerial role? If you look at the cabinet, right, all of them are charisma vacuums. All of them are boring as hell. There's no one in there who is actually, able to give a good speech. Rayner would probably be the only exception, but she's terrible. She's teleprompter. If we look at let's see, Labour cabinet, right? Let's have a look at the cabinet. That's why they got rid of her, because they're all boring. Let's have a look, Karen. Let's look at this seriously, right? Boring as hell. Teleprompter. Boring as hell. Ed Miliband, my goat. Gonna leave him be. Putting the L in the Labour Party. L meaning that L means like loss. L means like, you know, if you look at, you know, wins and losses, if you say a W means a win and L means a loss. Wes Streeting, boring as hell. David Lammy, boring as hell. Pat McFadden, but the most boring there is. Boring. Shabana Mahmood. Reynolds stumbles over his words a little bit. Kendall, one of the worst ones there is. John Healey, meh. Peter Kyle, don't really listen to him. Hilary Benn, meh. Pale imitation of what a great man is left. Yeah, Miliband seems alright. Ian Murray, I don't think I've heard him speak before. Bridget Phillipson, pretty bad. Lisa Nandy, the dumbest person on this list. Angela Smith, terrible. Lucy Powell, don't really listen to her that. I haven't heard much from her. Jo Stevens, I don't think I've heard much from her. No, she's alright actually. I think she was. I think they interviewed her recently about Welsh independence. She seems okay. Steve Reed, racist posters, and then Heidi Alexander, just a stooge. So if you look at this list, right, none of these people could give a speech as good as this. None of them can give a speech as good as this. That's why they got rid of her, because she's good at what she does, which is speaking and, you know, putting through her ideas. I've been disappointed with Andy. Well, you can't be disappointed with an idiot, mate. She's dumb as hell. Well, might be the only one that was allowed to talk for a while. What?
Responsibility, and I cannot cross by on the other side. For one, let alone for the 150.
Didn't they disappear Miliband? Not really. I think he's in the news recently for something.
1,000 who will be pushed further.
I mean, when you think about it, right, which ministers are actually doing the daytime rounds? Wes Streeting, what's his name? I think Reed has done a few. Pat McFadden, and that's about it. You don't really see many of the other ones. That much. I think Kendall you might see her on occasion.
Into poverty. And as so many of us fear, and as the evidence shows, since 600 people took their lives under the Tories' brutal reforms, the tragedy of this ideology could be worse. So I will fight for the purpose of politics.
Yeah, she got suspended because they think she's a troublemaker. That's why.
For their livelihoods.
This is a good speech, and it explains her rationale quite well. You're Ian Bryan saying, I'm appalled by the suspension of Rachel Maskell, Neil Duncan, Jordan, Brian Lasham, and Chris Hinchcliffe. Like me and 44 other MPs, they voted against the policy that push hundreds of thousands of disabled MP into poverty. This isn't the first time the leadership has punished MPs, for standing up for what's right. Last year, alongside 6 other colleagues, are suspended against voting against the 2-child cap. Troublemaker, yeah, because she keeps leading. She led the 2 key rebellions against the government, one over winter fuel and one over the disability changes they were going to make. We won't see them for the next 6 weeks. They're on holidays, yeah. My goat Ed fam, where is he? You know, they talk about Rachel Maskell, the 2 rebellions, and, she's upset the chess players apparently in number 10, the absolute stooges, who couldn't see a checkmate if you gave them one. Andrew Fisher saying, don't normally report on comms, but today the news was all about the Tories' cover-up of the endangerment of hundreds of Afghan refugees, then given legs by Badenoch's response, who Badenoch said, she wasn't aware of it because she missed one of the key meetings around it. and then the clowns in number 10 instead decided to make it all about them because they decided to suspend these MPs. They thought the Afghan story would be the big story, but realistically, it's not. It's the suspension of Labour MPs. Suspending 3 MPs you selected as new Labour candidates is quite something. Which again, they talked about how they were only selecting the best candidates. Labour just come across hating the poor, suspending people that care about people, that's what they care about. Source suggests the suspensions are targeted MPs who have been organisers of rebellions, including on welfare and planning, and not just voting records. Odd timing on number 10 does seem to suggest it will do things differently now. Well, they're going to be more vengeful by the looks of it. This is the Labour Party that's meant to be for, working people, for vulnerable people. Evidently not. Labour veteran on Starmer's latest wave of removing the whip from Labour MPs. Expelling Rachel Mascar is like expelling Mother Teresa. They are crackers. And it's true. They are. Just idiots. Honestly, just absolute idiots. What did Rachel Mascar do apart from win the argument with the government? So she is being suspended for being right about policy, makes the Whip's office look like bad losers, and she was right, and in the end, but not just morally correct, but also politically correct. This was the politically correct decision. The disability cuts were horrendous. They were not looked upon favourably by the public. The winter fuel allowance went down like a lead balloon. Absolutely awful. The public hated this policy. In the end, it was one of the things they were most known for globally. People abroad were talking about how the Labour government would take money from grandma effectively. How are you known to be? How is that even possible? Genuinely. What does the Labour stand for? The rich, probably. Where do you think this will go? Is there any way back for Labour under this leadership? I can't see. I don't think there is a way back. I think they're in too deep at the moment. Their best hope is that reform are terrible, right? The Tories are still terrible. The Sultana Party kind of collapses, and the Green Party don't do too well. That Adrian Ramsey wins the leadership contest, and that other lady that's with him. That's it. That's all they can hope for. They have to pray everyone else is bad. It's not a case of Labour winning; it's everyone else losing. That's what they need. The 47 MPs who voted against Tony Blair's plans to abolish single-parent benefits, with a further 100 abstaining, they were not suspended. And do you know the thing is? Tony Blair was much better at coalition building than Starmer will ever be, because there's a reason why he kept people like Jeremy Corbyn in the party, because having some dissenting voices makes the party look a lot more of a broad church than it actually is. So getting rid of the ringleaders is a massive publicity. If you get rid of some of the minor characters, it's a lot easier. But Starmer clearly closer to Stalin. But yeah, one of the MPs talking about how he's trying to get more council housing built and things like that. I remain to have been proud to have been elected as a Labour MP, and I hope in time to return back to the Labour benches. In the meantime, he's going to continue doing what he's doing. Everyone will be worse. Organised seems like that's how they go into power. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm curious how many people are aware that there is a party within the Labour Party called the Cooperative Party. They made up 41 MPs. How can you name or recognise? What? Yeah, Labour and the Cooperative Party. Yeah, people know about them a little bit. They're not that hidden. But it's mostly because they don't really publicise themselves that much. Next year's midterms. Don't call it midterms. No, get out of it. No, you can't call it midterms. That's an American saying. No, I'm not having that. No, boo this man. Boo. No, I'm not letting you have midterms. No, they already had a halftime show during the Club World Cup. I'm already pissed off about that. Utter woke nonsense. We're not calling it midterms. But next year's council and other elections be the difference. I don't think they'll get rid of him because there's no one who's going to replace him. Who's honestly, right? Give me a list. You know what? We'll play the game. Right. I'm going to ask you guys in the comments. Right. Where's the poll button? Where's the poll button gone? Let's go for. Okay, who could replace Starmer, right? I swear to God, if you people, no, I'm not gonna say that name. We'll go West Street, Rainer, you Reeves. And who else? I'll go Nandi. Why not? Right. If Starmer is to be replaced, right, out of these, which one are you going for? A wet paper bag. Yeah. No, not Long Bailey. No, just no. You guys are killing me today. Honestly, no, not Long Bailey. No, definitely not. But yeah, Starmer defended his U-turn on disability benefits. Cut saying it's common sense, having listened to the concerns of Labour MPs. Now, some of those very same Labour MPs who expressed their concerns are being suspended. So yeah, the people who helped him make the politically right decision suspended. Talking about doing what is moral, the other day the Labour whip objected to a bill that was in the Labour manifesto. The Hillsborough law. I need to get to that. You give me time. I will get to that. I will. That's on the list. This video here on the whips, the video on the Afghan refugees, and the video on Hillsborough. These are my priority videos that are going to come out soon. Rayna's the only answer. That's not rubbish. I mean, no. Rayna's pretty rubbish. Where's the none of the above option? We don't do that around here. It's you accept what you're given. You got 3 votes and everyone's voted for Rayna. Boo these people. Everyone knows the correct choice is Rachel Reeves. Everyone knows this. Well, being from the list anyway. Yeah, it's true. Ethan McGuinness. We should be run by ChatGPT. Get out of there. You're not seeing the situation with Grok. Grok putting out pro-Hitler statements. Definitely not. But yeah, just to catch you guys up real quick. We're just discussing the situation with Labour suspending four MPs who are the more progressive lot, should we say. And yeah, they're done. They've been suspended from the party. We don't know if they're going to come back. Should be interesting to see. Rock and Elmo. Or someone said West Streeting. Who is West Streeting in chat? I didn't even spell his name right. I spelled West. Oh no, shambles. Who voted West Streeting? Declare yourself. Who would do this? Reeves is in the wrong party. I said before the election. Yeah, I mean she's a Tory. Let's be honest. She's a conservative Tory. I mean a conservative Tory. She's a David Cameron Tory. Check the latest news about Elmo account. Is it the one where he was posting a lot of shit? Yeah, I think I did see. Elmo was hacked apparently. Yeah, saw that. But no, guys, seriously, yeah. Who voted for West Streeting? Reveal yourself. Or stay silent in shame. Stay silent. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. Yeah. Sit in silence. Not West Streeting, guys. No. Darren Jones. Brother. What's that, brother? You're voting for Harry Potter, really? I don't have a soundboard. I have to do all the sound effects manually now. Great. I love it. So I'm happy. So happy. So happy. Happy like you wouldn't believe. So happy. Where's not voting for Darren Jones? Come on, grow up. We're talking serious politics here. Serious. Oh, it's fine, Aggies, but serious politics. This is this ain't no nonsense. This ain't little man politics, yeah. This is serious business. So what I'm telling you is, no, I'm not putting Darren Jones on the list. But yeah, where's Streeting though? Really, guys. There's like 15 of you here. Can you guys just vote in the poll? Rayna would be a shock to the system. I'll tell you what was a shock to the system when she was telling striking bin workers to get back to work. Jeez, I was shocked. I did not expect her to be like that. I did not expect it. Well, I think she'll be terrible, to be honest. I don't think she's. I don't know. With Rayna, I just see a person who is just not. He's not great. Then again, the thing is, like, she did get one major win, which was she managed to get more funding for council housing, and I do appreciate that, because that is important to build more social housing in this country. This country sucks for social housing, so I'll give her respect on that. Everything else, her workers' rights bill, pretty mid. Pretty mid. For a Labour government, mid, I'd say. So yeah. Anything else? Any other spicy takes? West Streeton got more votes? Who's doing this? I didn't even spell his name right. He's not ready to be... I mean, no, it's just... I don't know. For someone to flip on their morals like that, they can't be trusted. She won't win a leadership contest. She won't. It's probably going to be some no-name. Let's be honest. Like, it's going to be like Dr. Carl or someone like that. Someone who's not that well known, who's not been tarnished with the brand. Like, all you have to do is just get on the final ballot. That's it. Just get on the final list, and you're basically there. The problem, the others are worse from that list. They're saying you want your leg or finger chopped off. Yeah, honestly, it does feel a bit like that. But yeah, no, guys, I'm serious. Yeah, who's voting Who's voting for West Street, guys? Who's doing this? Who's doing this? Could be worse. Yeah, you guys could have voted for Rachel Reeves. It could be worse. I'll take West Streeting over Rachel Reeves. Would I vote for West Streeting over Lisa Nandy? That's the key question, because West Streeting is an arrogant prick, but Nandy's an idiot. You got to pick your poison there. Right? Yeah. Yeah, Simon. Last time you had a rogue vote. You voted for something real bad. I can't remember what it was, but the problem with the others from the list is like saying, yeah. Anyways, carrying on. There's a little bit more to discuss here. Beggars belief that the MPs have done this just as they're going on recess. And yeah, you got this statement from Ridge. I read it and I was just like, I don't think your analysis is that good here, to be honest. Big up Clive Lewis. Clive Lewis, he probably won't make the final list. If Clive Lewis makes the list, the final list of like the 5 MPs or whatever, if he gets enough nominations, you best believe I'm picking up a Labour membership. I'm voting for that, brother. I'll be there no matter what. I voted West Street, not a choice but a likelihood. I'm clueless. Okay, that's fair. No, I'll give you that. But okay, that's fair. No, I'm not going to argue with that. That's okay. I put who could, not who should. No, that's on me. That's on me. Also, there's a slight confusing thing that so she talks about the rebellion and all this stuff, right? It's a risky move. Her point here, I'm pointing out like you can see me, goes, my sense after reporting on numerous governments in Westminster for many years is that when you suspend MPs, it can either be a sign of strength or weakness, depending on how strong you are at the time. I don't think that's true. I think it depends on why you suspend them. If you suspend them for legitimate reasons, then you can get away with it, and it's a sign of strength. If you suspend them because they rebelled against you, it's pathetic, especially over this. The public would, I think, overwhelmingly back the suspended MPs. Diane Abbott, nah. I'd be amazed if Diane Abbott runs again in an election, to be honest. Farage is being lined up next. Well, I had to yawn. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it's very possibly. Big up Nigel. Big up Nigel on that. But yeah, they might as well just give him the crown at this point. Clive Lewis, Andy MacDonald. Who else would you add? I'd put in Dr. Khan. I'd put in I think Nadia Whitcomb. She seems okay. I'd put in I'm trying to think of a list. Rachel Mascow. I'd put, Clive Lewis. Yeah, you mentioned Clive Lewis. I'm not too familiar with the Labour MPs, I'll be honest. I used to be a lot better at this. Ed Miliband, I'd put him in. Voting for Muggs. I suppose. Don't really have much choice there. At least you had to choose one of the Mugs. Maybe they made Rachel cry. That's one of my favourite thumbnails, just the video of her in tears, because that's what she was going to do to people. That's what her policy is going to do to people. So no, I'm not, it's hard to feel sympathy for someone who was ready to do catastrophic damage to others. It's very difficult, very, very difficult to feel any sympathy. Like, for the people saying, she's working really hard as well, and all this stuff, is like, she's not working that hard. you know, the time that, you know, she was chilling big in Davos and things like that, like going to the US to do what? Jollies. Honestly, shameless. Yeah, no one's picking wrong Bailey, bro. No one is picking wrong Bailey. But yeah, the last message is this. Keir Starmer discussing this previously.
If you look at what Boris Johnson did, and I'm not advocating it, he just took the whip away from 25 Tories and had done with it. Now, I'm guessing from your facial expression, you wouldn't go that far.
I don't.
Dodds would be interesting. The problem with Annalise Dodds is she's incredibly boring. Incredibly boring. Like, I listened to one of her speeches and I nearly fell asleep. Like, she's very smart. She had some interesting policies as Shadow Chancellor. Dull. Very dull. I don't mean that like to be mean, but I think as a politician, you have to have some level of energy where people can kind of feel it, you know, if that makes sense. Like, you know, say what you want about Boris Johnson, at least he had a level of energy when he spoke. You didn't want to fall asleep whilst he was speaking. The guy's a lunatic. You know, Tony Blair the same. Like, he had a level of energy when he spoke. You know, an orator, I guess. With a lot of the other kind of leaders we've had, they're just terrible at speaking. Like, Cameron wasn't great. Theresa May was abysmal. Who was after May? Was it Boris Johnson? Some energy, I guess. Liz Truss, terrible. Rishi Sunak, terrible. You had, you know, I think in a leader you have to have some level of speaking ability. You know, some level of razzmatazz. You know, some level of ability to, you know, have a conversation with people, but also be good at deflecting interviews and look comfortable in your own skin. Starmer looks always uncomfortable. So let's have a listen to this clip.
What would you do?
If you're going to go for unity, you've got to inspire people to come together. You can't force them to come together. And disciplining people to be united is going nowhere. So the only way in the end to unite the Labour Party is to be very clear that's what you want to do, to recognise there will be different views and to reconcile them, and to have a culture and a spirit where people genuinely want to pull together.
Look at what...
Well, clearly he didn't foster that. That's the problem. He didn't foster that spirit of trying to pull together. You know, in the end, you had Labour MPs who tried to force the issue. There's some more Keir lying, and there are also many clips people can choose from. Yeah, I mean, there's loads. If Starmer was a serious politician, as soon as he got in, he would have gone after the corruption of the last Tory government. He needed to build trust in democracy, but alas. And just a load of clown emojis. Nice. We're going to switch to the Afghanistan story. The website sucks.
Source in Whitehall. I received a message from a source in Whitehall who informed
So I got to find copyright because I'll be pissed.
me that there had been, in their words, a catastrophic data leak.
Creasley could be interesting. Stella Creasley. I don't. I'd have to look. I'd have to see. I don't know a ton about her. She's very pro EU, but I don't know much about her outside of that.
From the Ministry of Defence. It had 18,000 people on them, on the list, on the data set, but we were told that potentially up to 100,000 people could be affected when it included family members. I was very surprised to see an email arrive in my inbox basically instructing me to attend an emergency online hearing. I was even more surprised when we attended it to learn that the judge was proposing not just an injunction, but a super injunction. It became clear at that moment that the government were proposing to change the rules of the game. The people on the list were not aware that their data had been compromised. The thing that disturbed me most was the feeling that this wasn't, at this point, I didn't think about Afghan safety. This was about politics. This was preventing, in my view, this story from getting out there. There was a strong possibility that actually many of those people on the list, by not being informed, were being put at greater risk.
He's right. This is actually really good work from Goodall. I've always mixed on.
200 to 1,000 people. They have now relocated, we know, in possibly the biggest covert operation and movement of people in history, certainly in peacetime. Thousands and thousands of people, potentially at a cost of, the government says, a minimum of £800 million, but we actually saw a court document which suggested the total cost could be up to £7 billion. Consider that, James. £7 billion of public...
So from what I've seen, the total cost of relocating Afghan refugees, plus the multiple schemes that they've had, it costs £7 billion, according to someone who was actually involved in the scheme.
was not able to ask the relevant minister how it was being spent and why and what the rationale and basis was. As I say, this was, as the judge in this case himself described, an example, a unique example in our history of our democracy being put into a scrutiny vacuum.
What is ironic is the fact that the judge actually proposed the solution in the first place. I don't know if it's the same judge throughout, but for the judge to say it's a scrutiny vacuum, but also say, hey guys, you ever thought of doing a super injunction? Crazy work. There's more here.
To a lot about our contemporary politics, actually. This anger that we are sort of blaming Labour for a Tory problem. And I think this is very curious and very odd, because of course it is true that the Conservative Party or the Conservative government took out the super injunction and they framed all...
And the data breach happened under their watch.
...all of the initial policy response on it. But it's also true that Labour maintained it. And it is perfectly fair to say that there are different questions for the different sides. For the Conservatives, it is clearly why you took it out in the first place, why you allowed it to become a super injunction, why you kept battling against it being discharged so many times, why it was, what the basis was of the intelligence assessment that it would be so dangerous, which now appears to have just completely disappeared. Loads and loads of questions. And ultimately, they are the ones who set the precedent. So perhaps the burden of the questions is gravest and greatest on them. But that doesn't mean that there aren't questions for, as you heard me put to yesterday, John Healey and the Labour government. For a start, it was in place for a year. Why did it take so long? And let's remember, it is John Healey and this government who have made this decision, not the Conservatives, who have made the decision to close the relevant schemes which were designed to compensate for the data breach in the first place, to bring people over who had suddenly been put in danger. John Healey made the decision to close that yesterday. That was his decision. So, of course, perhaps the weight slightly leans towards the Conservative Party, but the idea that there aren't questions for Labour to answer is just absolutely...
With the scheme as well, I think the Homes for Ukraine scheme is still open as well.
Irresistible.
Yeah, and of course, and there may be good answers, and we may...
Good answers. Good answers at closing a scheme, especially one that was, where people had their data leaked. Good one, bro.
Yeah, come to understand better. I mean, I suspect Labour comes to power. There is a degree of institutional capture of ministers by the Whitehall machine, by the MOD machine, which says, look, this is in place. But I mean, we can't jeopardise thousands of lives. And you've got a bunch of new ministers who've not worked in the MOD before and are thinking, oh, Christ, what is it? OK, well, I suppose we need to keep this for a bit. And then they start to think, well, maybe this is a bit...
No, this guy's washed. There's more from Goodall.
The super injunction to remain in place, potentially.
And were you able to fight it?
Well, we were able to fight it, except that this was all taking place, Katie, in secret. It was taking place in a secret court within a secret court. Bear it in mind, as more media defendants became injuncted, we were able...
Yeah, the story kind of spun out and more people got involved.
More people became aware of the story.
Indeed so, and then were served with a super injunction. This was a secret court within a secret court, because for around half of the time, even though this was taking place in court number 27 of the Royal Courts of Justice behind a locked door, half the time, whenever we had a difficult question for the government or a piece of evidence we wished to query, what did the answer come back with? I'm sorry, my lord, we can't discuss that in open court. As if this was an open court. There was no open justice to this whatsoever. They would claim there was a national security justification as to why we couldn't hear things. So this was a secret within a secret, and that might have been tolerable for a brief period. I think it was completely intolerable for a 2-year period. Never mind journalists. Parliament, which sits at the heart of our democracy, was denied the right to scrutinise the executive, 2 executives, for a 2-year period, during which time there was a massive resettlement programme of thousands of people. You may think it should have been more people or fewer, but it was a massive resettlement programme and a huge amount of public money, anywhere between 800 million at the lower end and potentially up to 7 billion at the higher end was spent, and Parliament had no ability to scrutinise that decision making. I believe that should never happen again. I am disturbed by the fact that Number 10 has refused to rule out the use of super injunctions again in future. In my interview with the Defence Secretary, John Healey, for the news agents this evening, he also, although he said the bar would be very, very high, also said he could not rule out using super injunctions again in this way.
We will pick this up.
Yeah, I don't... With this scheme, like, there's a lot to cover. I'm going to give it a couple of days just to see what else comes out about this. I did want to cover the Labour MP thing, So I don't think that story's going to spiral out too much, aside from the kind of consequences from it. But there'll be a lot more coverage on this because the super injunction just lifted from this yesterday. Healey moaned about the mess the Tories made, but he was happy to hide behind the law until he was forced to. Well, I don't think Healey was forced to come clean, was he? I think he chose to drop the super injunction. I don't think it was the case that he had to drop it. I could be wrong on that. Can interview with the Defence Secretary. That's the one that was annoying. What Goodall was annoying, or Healey was annoying. Okay, you guys have next. I'm gonna jump off in a second and try and get some dinner. Maybe fall asleep because I'm knackered today. Today was so long. Yeah. So overall, like this, you've got two massive scandals in a week, in my opinion, and I don't know. The situation with Afghan refugees is just wild. But this is just this ain't it. This ain't it, in my opinion. Yeah, they asked. Oh my god, Andrew Marr asking one of the suspended MPs, "Can you promise not to rebel again?" And the MP's like, "Well, I can't promise that." Such a dumb question. Oh, I've just seen some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Cheapy Stardust. 7th of November. Okay, I'm buying then. Some nonsense Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Okay, I'll be there no matter what. But overall, like, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what more to say to you guys on this topic. Why are the Conservative MPs not in jail? I mean, this was like an issue of civil service. Like, I don't think the Conservatives have broken the law in this very rare instance. The Defence Secretary was like, yeah, Pat Healey makes sense. Didn't answer any questions. Directly was shifting and deflect. Oh, sounds like a Labour MP if I've ever heard one. A Labour minister. Anyways, guys, we're going to wrap it there. Thanks for joining. Been going for like an hour. I'm knackered. I had a long day at work today, so I'm not 100%, but I did want to get this video out to you guys and actually discuss some of these topics because these are two, back to back, two big stories. I think the Afghanistan story will always be bigger than Labour MPs being suspended, but the story about the Labour MPs, like with the data breach, I wasn't surprised. We don't know if anyone was killed or injured due to the data leaks. That's one thing I'll say. Like, hopefully, there's no way to really 100% prove it, but you had a lot of families who effectively, were put at risk by the government. What about all the things that they have done in 14 years? I mean, there's a lot, but if you don't break the law, if the people refuse to prosecute and do their job, what more are you supposed to do at that point? David Cameron selling off Royal Mail on the cheap, that wasn't illegal. Them selling RBS on the cheap, that wasn't illegal. So we gotta really question the laws in this country because they scammed the taxpayer twice, back to back, and they got away with it, as always. So what more are you supposed to do at that point? It's just because it's legal doesn't make it immoral. It doesn't mean that it's moral, if that makes sense, guys. But yeah, there's not much more to discuss, I think, on this subject. Thanks everyone for joining. I want to call it a night, and I'll catch you guys hopefully Saturday. I don't think I'm doing anything Saturday. Last week I was at cinema. Yeah, even when they break the law, the defence are not going to hold. They're only accountable. Anyways, didn't you say you have to get to what? I'm not going to say that. But yeah. Anyways, guys. As always, we peak on viewers just as we're ending the stream. As always. I'll catch you guys hopefully Saturday. Bye.